Hello and welcome to Cursed Christmas, and in this first episode of this series, I'm going to be doing some baking, using my FDM 3D printer in a way which you may not have thought of using it before. The gingerbread house has long been a staple of the festive season, but it's been done 1,000 times, and to be frank, it's boring. So in this video, we're going to bake the monolith. And before we do anything else, we're going to need to do some printing. So let's hop over to ZBrush to design our gingerbread monolith. For starters, I had to build the shape that I want to achieve with my gingerbread pieces. I've kept the shapes very vague and not that detailed, as gingerbread isn't really a very precise building material. After creating the shapes that I wanted, I then had to use these shapes and then create cookie cutters that I could then 3D print. This is something that anyone with a very basic understanding of ZBrush can do. You're effectively taking one shape and then cutting it away from a flat one, trimming it down a little bit and then adding a ridge so that it cuts into the dough better. But no worries, all of these files will be available, so you haven't got to do any of this work, you can just nick it from this video. If you fancy making something custom yourself that isn't the monolith, then by all means give it a go, or use FreeCAD if you don't have access to ZBrush, as FreeCAD is free. It took Gertrude approximately 10 hours combined to create all of these cookie cutters, but now that they're finished and looking great, it's time to move on to the next stage. Baking. The recipe is very simple, basically chuck all in bowl and mix. Even I couldn't mess that up. Well, I say that, turns out I can. I'm not allowed to cook unsupervised, and Mrs. Peak decided I was doing things wrong, so has done most of the work here.
It's not fully melted. You meant to let it cool.
Well, if it cooled, it wouldn't be liquid then, would it? Definitely just this, there's no more liquids.
So you can have a tablespoon of milk if you want.
I think you're supposed to use a spoon, not a whisk, I've got a feeling.
You meant to use your hands.
Right, well let's do that then.
I didn't want to burn myself.
That's fair enough. And we're going to burn my hand. It feels wrong. This is disgusting. Oh, I should put flour on my... Can you put flour on this hand? It's too late now. I started.
It's gonna stick to your hand anyway.
Yeah, I guess it is. I'm going to fling that at someone in the street. Are you sure I had to use my hand? Because this feels like I'm not meant to do
Yes,
this.
this is on the recipe. Your baking's meant to be messy.
You haven't got them.
Why are you acting like you're washing your hand with them?
I have never baked in my life. I'm not... This is... Oh god. What is this? I should have put gloves on. It's too late now. I'm committed.
I hope you leave the audio in.
I leave some of it in, just nothing incriminating. Looks like I work in sewage.
So why is it on your hand? That's photo.
What do you mean? Why is it on my hand? Right, don't injure me. Success. Oh yes.
This is such a good food.
This is excellent. Right, I'm just gonna wash my hands at this point. Do you? Now you look like you're gonna fling things at people in the street.
Fling you in the street.
You wanted to play with it, and you brought this on yourself.
I didn't want to play with it.
Oh god. Not sure this is how this is meant to go.
Why is this?
Are you okay? Can you just like either put it in the bowl or like, I don't know, don't do that, it's weird. When everything is mixed together correctly, it should form a dough-like consistency which no longer really sticks to your hands. We ended up adding a lot more flour than the original recipe, but we got there eventually.
It's quite a bit of dough. How thick do you need it to be?
Thick like a Disney mum.
Done.
Then what you're going to want to do is roll it out onto a bit of baking paper, make sure it's about 1/2 centimetre in thickness, then place another sheet on top of it and leave it in the fridge for an hour. After leaving the dough in the fridge for an hour, it's now time to use the 3D printed cookie cutters. Upon reflection, I probably should have made the edges a bit sharper on these, but I underestimated how hard it would be to cut the dough. Never mind. With a little manual cutting, I had the pieces done, and it's now time to cook. So into the oven they went, bit of a sore spot for Necrons, for 10 minutes at 190 degrees.
Ta-da!
Now with all the pieces baked, we have the hardest part of this entire project, putting the damn thing together. And let me tell you, I haven't been this nervous for a long time, because if I break one of these pieces, I've got to do the whole damn thing again, so I was very careful. But before I put anything together, I first decorated the centerpiece, the main section which will be holding that tesseract orb in the middle of the monolith, because I wanted that to be done first, as otherwise I'd have to do it after, and I just feel that's an excellent opportunity for me to put my fist through the whole thing. But with that bit completed, it was time to stick all of it together with some stuff that I got from the Eye of Kia. The baking glue did work really well, and once I got that on there and I held them together very carefully with just the right amount of pressure, everything has stuck together nicely. In fact, I managed to get it all together and I only did one bit of damage, which wasn't critical. It just had to have a little bit of patching done to it, so it's still there. You can see a tiny crack, but it sits on top of it and it still looks great, so I'm happy. This is probably the best case scenario. I'm amazed I haven't broken more of it. Now that it's fully assembled, I can add all of those finishing touches and details on the outside with the icing sugar, and I might be a bit biased, but I think this looks pretty cool. And there you have the cheapest way for you to own your very own monolith. Well, cheaper than buying the model, that is. And I did ask, but apparently I'm not allowed to use this at tournaments. I'd like to say a special thanks to Mrs. Peak for pretty much doing all of the baking in this video, and also for holding the camera here and there. And another thank you to you, the viewer. Thanks for watching, and if you want to make one of these yourself, you'll find everything you need in the description below. There will also be a link to my Discord where you can share your creations and ask any questions that you may have. Like the smash button, press the other button, and I'll see you next time when I make Death Guard Santa.